I don't even give a fuck if you believe me. This sounds unreal, more like a dream I had, and nobody else believes me either, but you guys are more trained in this occult bullshit, so what the fuck? Here I go. Be me. I was 19 years old and visiting my grandfather in North Michigan. Here's a bit of backstory about my gramps. My grandpa lives in a cabin, like a pioneer, and I never really knew him too well. I only ever saw him once every few years, and all I really knew about him was that back in the 70s, he served in Vietnam. When I was 17, he confessed to me that he felt terrible about the things he had to do there. Apparently, he beat a kid to death with a shovel. After that, I kind of avoided him because I was too freaked out to talk to him, especially since he was clearly unstable. Fast forward 2 years, and now he knows he's nearing the end of his life and has liver problems but refuses medication. He invited me over since I'm his last living relative and he wants to spend time with me before he passes. At first, I was hesitant, but I decided that this is what my father would have wanted. After about 3 hours of driving, I get to his cabin. It's a nice place and looks like it's made of Lincoln logs. He is waiting outside on his cabin porch and smoking a pipe in his rocking chair. He looks straight out of a cartoon, suspenders and all, but he looks exhausted, with dark circles under his saggy eyes. He gets up and gives me a bear hug. I can tell he's trying to hug me as hard as he can, but he's clearly weak. We hug for a few minutes, mostly because I find it too awkward to break away. I remind myself that even though I've only known him for a few years, he's known me my whole life. Halfway through, he starts kind of breathing heavily, and he sniffles. I then realize he's been crying silently. Eventually he breaks away, and he has red eyes. Come inside, Anon. Okay, Grandpa. I go inside, and it's a very cozy cabin. It is getting cold, especially in Michigan, so he has the fire going. He has running water, a gas stove, and 2 beds. One of them is very new and of quality. I think he bought it just for me. When I get over the initial off-puttedness of his behavior, I begin to care more for him. I mean, I remember that, after all, he is my grandfather, if that makes sense. The bond of family is now very important to me. I decide to be his live-in helper until he passes on. He starts to make us some decaf coffee, but halfway through, he begins to sweat. So I help him to his chair by the fire and finish the coffee. My coffee tastes like shit, but he's still very appreciative and assures me it's delicious. After the decaf, we get ready for bed. He lies on the old beat-up small bed and tells me to sleep on the new one. When I tell him we should switch, he refuses. I guess he really did buy it for me. He says his prayers and falls asleep. I can't stand watching this dying old man, my own flesh and blood, sleeping on that pile of junk. He's become quite small and frail at this age, and with a bit of effort, I manage to lift him up gently and tuck him into the big bed. I move the small bed to the window and make sure to sleep facing it. That way the sun wakes me up before he wakes up. When the sun does rise and wake me up, it's 6 a.m. I slide the bed back and then switch my grandpa back. I lay on the good bed for another 20 minutes before I realize I can't fall asleep again because all that lifting had woken me up. I decide to just prepare my breakfast and pack his pipe for him. I go to an outhouse near his cabin because I'm worried flushing might wake him up. When I'm done, I step outside, but then I notice something behind his cabin. It seems to be a gate holding 6 black horses. They're shackled in these massive metal chains, and each horse has a huge metal ring around their neck. They're all chained together and all chained to the ground. Since it's like 6 a.m., the forest is still dark and they look incredibly creepy. I thought it might have been a trick of the light, but their faces looked all fucked up. Pick related is a horse skull, You know how most horses don't look like that skull? Well, these did, and their eyes were almost red. I thought it might have just been a reflection, like how cameras will show red pupils, but God, was I wrong. I stepped back inside to find my grandpa awake and sitting on his bed. We talked about what we were going to do for the day, and he said his back felt good enough today that he might want to go do some fishing. Not to stroke my own ego, but I attribute that to me letting him sleep in a good bed for once. And let me tell you, he may as well have been sleeping on the floor. But whatever. After a breakfast of eggs and bacon, I drive him to a pond near the house. We fished for a while, and were silent the entire time, but it wasn't awkward. It was a comfortable silence. I didn't catch anything, but he caught a 3-pounder, and I helped him reel it in. He was very proud of himself, and that made me happy too. He said he used to love to go fishing, and I told him we could make his catch into dinner. On the drive back, I asked him about the horses. I had kind of forgotten about them since early morning, but instantly I knew I shouldn't have asked. His bright, cheerful smile was now replaced with a kind of stern grin. He looked like he was trying to force himself to maintain a rapidly fleeting smile. He told me not to worry about it, and that they were just some pets. I almost listened to him, except he nervously quivered when he said the word worry. That never happened before or after, so I doubt it was just an old man thing. When we got back, he showed me how to gut and debone the fish. We marinated it in dry rub for about 30 minutes while he took a break to puff on his pipe. While he was doing that, I opened the curtains to the back window and peered at the horses. They hadn't moved at all. They hadn't eaten or slept. They didn't even look cold, but they were still shooting out hot breath from their nose. I know because it was cold and I could see it. I then stepped outside to talk to my grandfather about the horses. Grandpa, did you forget to feed the horses or something? You don't feed those horses, Anon. I had no clue what he meant, but every time I tried to ask, he would just ignore me and change the subject. When he was done, we stepped inside and had our dinner, but I noticed that he prayed extra long that night. Fast forward to the next morning, and I just woke up with the sun and put my grandpa back into his bed. I decided to get a bit closer to the horses this time. I got just barely close enough so I could see them, but I don't think they noticed me. Christ, remembering it now sends shivers down my spine. It's just as terrifying as I thought it would be, if not more so. They had this shaggy, matted fur, and they were deformed with bent out-of-shape skulls. I know 100% their rib cages should not be indented like that. And their teeth, they looked like they had been chewing on rocks or something. It wasn't just their appearance, though. I mean, I've been around deformed animals before. It doesn't bother me that much. But they just had this fucked up presence. Like the feeling in your stomach after you watch some fucked up gore. Initially, I felt bad for them, but now I just wanted them to die. Strangely, however, I also wanted to get closer. Just being around them made me weaken my knees, and I couldn't do it. One of them looked me in the eyes, and if I hadn't just used the bathroom, I would have shit myself. Grandpa was just starting to wake up, so I tried to just forget about it and get to work. Today was supplies day, meaning we were going to go into town and refill on our food, our firewood, toiletries, etc. I also decided to buy Grandpa a cake, too. Not for any special reason, just that it's important to have some fun while he could. Usually, he just got someone else to deliver him food, but it was good to get some exercise. Plus, his back was feeling great. We drove into town and Grandpa said he was getting sick. The poor guy hadn't been in a car for a while, and motion sickness got to him and we had to pull over. After that, I realized we had to shop quickly. We went to a very large store and picked everything up. I hid the cake from Grandpa to surprise him with it back at the cabin. But when we do get back, something is very wrong. I feel that same stomach feeling. There's a fucking racket coming from the back of the cabin. I pull up the car and step outside. The horses are going nuts. Littered on the floor behind them are some balls of white. Grandpa tells me very sternly, "Get in the fucking cabin." Shouldn't we drive away? Son, the worst thing we can do right now is try and escape. I have no clue what the fuck he's on about. When we get inside, he starts explaining. Remember, he was an old man and he was sick, so he was hard to understand. Everything he says is so disjointed that he didn't know what they were when he brought them to the cabin, and that if he leaves, he'll die, and that the horses must have eaten something. From all these random details he's telling me, I piece together that if you feed them, they get stronger, and they can lure things in better, I think. Once one of them got a bite, they got enough strength to lure in more and more. The most we can do is hope they run out of things to eat. A loud fucking crack, like a whip, snaps through the air. Grandpa goes silent. What the fuck was that, Grandpa? He stares at me, kind of empty-like. Looking back at it, I think he was accepting his death. One of them broke the chains. What the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck? Grandpa looks at me, with a kind of pain in his eyes. Anon, turn around. I whip around, facing the building. You're a good kid. And then I lose consciousness. I come to with the sun beaming on my face. I wake up in a pool of my own blood. There's a crowbar at my side and my head aches like fuck. I touch the back of my head and thankfully it's just a flesh wound. I pick myself up and try not to vomit, and I fail. I sit down and try to orient myself. Everything aches, and I'm freezing. Wait, why am I freezing? The right wall of the cabin is full of large holes, like someone threw boulders through it. What the fuck? Where's Grandpa? There's no sign of him. In fact, there's no sign of anything. I open the door and step outside and check behind me. The gates have been trampled, and the chains are broken. I get closer. Those white things I saw were crushed up rabbits. The horses half chewed them and spit them out. I start to piece everything together, and then promptly vomit again. Long story short, I walked back to the cabin and picked up a few things. I picked up my grandpa's pipe and his bluegrass tobacco. I found a golden cross that he kept hidden in his cabinet and then drove home without stopping. The next day I called a delivery boy and asked him to deliver to the house so I could see if I dreamed the whole thing. He told me the house was burned down. Guys, I have no idea what the fuck happened that day. I'm sitting here and smoking his pipe. Honestly, it's the only proof I have that any of this happened. My therapist can't explain it since I have physical evidence. My priest can't explain it since there's no records of demon horses or anything as far as we know. My friends tell me I'm full of shit. I don't know who else to turn to, guys. Help me.